do a little preview of the Bayern game, but I don't know, not actually really get into the finer details of what's going to happen. Just more so look at what are these continuous issues that are going to roll on to the Bayern Munich game and the Liverpool game, and continue until we get certain players back for sure. But yeah, let's just get into the Bayern Munich game a little bit. They will offer some of the spaces that Chelsea did, because they will be so aggressive, because they'll try and play it from the back with more quality, obviously. But Bayern Munich will go head-to-head, toe-to-toe with United, so we will actually have some spaces to operate in, which is the only way that we look mildly successful in games. The difference is being that Bayern Munich have far more quality than Chelsea do, and we will see, like in the Chelsea game, if you afford a quality team chances, then we will get put away easily. The main problem, which is the big issue with Manchester United, all of these conversations about whether it's the ownership, the management, the recruitment, all these issues, everyone stopped talking actually about the football. So in regards to what's going on, everyone's just stopped talking about it. So there are no discussions anymore about tactically and positionally how we're setting up. One, because Ten Hag is so stubborn, so changes now are a distant hope. And also because there's so much noise in regards to how bad United are, ownership talk. People have stopped talking about what can you do to change what's going on. Now, there are definitely injuries, and that is highlighted by the main glaring issue, which has been the issue all season, is if you're playing with these two aggressive midfielders in Bruno Fernandes and McTominay, those positions are really important in Ten Hag's system. And if they don't offer you any out balls whatsoever in those said positions, then you're going to have a massive problem. Now, here people talk about how McTominay's not good enough, which he's not. So who would you play instead of him? Now, if you're playing Kobe Mainoo and Amrabat, and then Bruno's a 10, you are slightly changing the dynamic of Ten Hag's dynamic, aggressive style kind of starting positions as an attacking unit. But if you were to keep the system completely intact with 1-6 and 2 aggressive 8s, the only player that you could change McTominay with at the present moment is Van der Beek, who I think has obviously been criminally underutilised in regards to not giving the technical aspects of his game a chance within this team to offer us balance. We're desperate for balance, so then you can make desperate decisions and play someone with to the technical qualities of Donny van der Beek in the 8. But without Casemiro, without Eriksen, and without Mount, those aggressive midfield positions can't be changed. So when you bring Kobe Mainoo in for McTominay, for example, Bruno Fernandes drops looking for space on the ball, so you end up with a predominantly flat 3. And then, yes, you can keep the ball a little bit better in those areas, but then still the glaring massive hole in the traditional number 10 space is there. Højlund pushes onto the defender's toes. Bruno Fernandes drops to receive possession, and nobody takes responsibility in the centre of the pitch. Hence why you see the ball continuously being recycled to the wingers, the ball being played out wide continuously. So it doesn't really matter what we play, because McTominay and Bruno Fernandes will occupy those positions. And as you saw against Bournemouth, Bruno Fernandes drops really deep in search for space to get onto the ball, to try and play his exuberant passes, and McTominay gets into the box far too early. We do not have any players at our disposal that can play in those aggressive midfield positions that will stay in those positions and that will offer in difficult areas and receive the ball on the turn, etc. Yeah, and also just another thing, I saw like an interesting article, whatever. I saw a headline in regards to the players that can be on sale in January, who can go in January, and it was Varane, Casemiro, Martial, Sancho, and I think Anthony maybe, right? And most of those players now, people think are redundant completely, right? But just there's a running theme across the board of those players where technical ability is their kind of main primary skill set that they excel at, right? And I think that's the more underlying issue, whether you think those players should be sold or not. The underlying issue of why is it that the technical footballers within our club seem to find it so difficult to thrive? And I really think that is the thing. Is it the style of play that we have at the club and that we have had over post-Ferguson, which has been very kind of like physical, vertical based, and really like focusing on athletes and putting technical ability second? Why is it all of our technical players are really struggling to kind of make a mark on the team? And I think in an alternate universe, as you see City utilising smaller, less physically able, and less physically imposing players like Julian Alvarez and Bernardo Silva, they're playing those players in those positions and they're being brave within that sense. And in an alternate universe, you could have played Sancho in one of those aggressive 8 positions. In an alternate universe, Donny van der Beek would have come into a team that enabled him to play in smaller spaces, enabled him to have colleagues and teammates around him so he can utilise his technical abilities. In an alternate universe, Anthony would have come into a team where, although he doesn't take on his fullback, which hardly anyone does in modern day football, but when he comes inside and takes care of the ball, holds it up, when he comes inside, in an alternate universe, we would have midfielders that want to show in tight spaces, so he doesn't look like he's always going back with the ball or he's always playing the sideways pass. In an alternate universe, we would be a breeding ground of technical players that are enthusiastic and are physically intense on the pitch. They don't have to be big and strong. They don't have to be lightning quick over 50 yards. But we would put technical ability and technical excellence and taking care of the ball as number one priority, not forgetting the league we're playing in and the environment that the Premier League offers. But this is the squad that has been built up over time, where we have put the dynamic elements of the Premier League in the foreground of our thought when we are in recruitment. And I feel like we're now paying the price for that kind of overzealous approach to the physicality of the Premier League. Football is still football and it's still played with the round thing, and you've still really got to be masters at being able to manipulate that ball around the pitch. It's still a really important part of football, and I feel like we've got so enamoured by the off the ball elements of football, which are massively important. But you don't see the great teams forgetting what to do on the ball. The greatest pressing teams in modern day football that have been, whether it's Manchester City or Barcelona or Liverpool, one thing that they do for the majority of games is dominate possession. And then with the accrued energy that they have, when they do give the ball away, the press is there, it's energetic, it's enthusiastic. because they want to get the ball back, because they want to do the thing they love. They want to be able to keep the ball and pass the ball and create chances and can create opportunities and make angles for each other, because that's what football players like to do. They don't like to run around for minimal reward. Whether the crowd likes it or not, it's really enjoyable to keep possession when you're playing football. I don't know whether you've experienced a game where you've played in a team where they're capable of completing more than 5 passes, but it's very enjoyable. Knock the ball around. You see football players when they're in rondos, when they get up to the higher scores. That's enjoyable. Whether the English culture doesn't breed the space and enjoyment for tippy-tappy. They call it tiki-taka on the continent, and we take the piss and call it tippy-tappy because we don't like that shit over here, right? The Bayern Munich game's not going to be any different to anything else we've seen this season. I feel like Ten Hag's unfortunately dug himself into a hole in regards to his philosophy, his tactics. He has been stubborn and pragmatic and rolled over far too quick. And he talks about bravery, but bravery in the correct channels. You need to be brave in the correct spaces. And Ten Hag has been brave in his aggressive nature of his tactics and philosophy. But then he has been pragmatic in the player and the profile of player that he has chosen to drag him through this stage of injury crisis, or so-called injury crisis. I sympathise with him slightly with the absences of Eriksen and Mount and Casemiro, even though he didn't utilise those players well and they did not perform in his system when they were fit. The disappointing thing with Ten Hag is we're going to see a manager eventually. He's going to be given a lot more time than people think, but we're going to see a manager that has fallen in love with this hybrid aggressive style / trying to sprinkle some United philosophy into it, as he spoke about in the off season. And I think that this is quite it's not a delicate approach to football. There's zero time for finesse or to take care. It's so, it feels so German. Like not even the way that Germans play football now or anything, but just the way that Ten Hag wants to play. It's the way he looks. The way Ten Hag looks is the way that he wants us to play football. Seems very efficient. I think probably the way he folds his clothes is probably quite efficient. And I think it's disappointing with Ten Hag because I feel like he's a first manager that we've had post Ferguson that is in his prime. Whether you rate him and where you put him in terms of where he is and his trajectory of his career as a manager, it's his prime to a certain extent. So the disappointment is that he's made big turns and he's turned big corners with his team and his player profile and his tactics. And once you make a really big corner with a squad, an elite squad, you can't be chopping and chopping and changing and completely changing your mind continuously, because you just lose the message completely. So you need to be really precise when you're making these decisions as a big manager. Milo, shut the fuck up, man. And Ten Hag's made too many big turns that I don't think have been really well thought out or have been made with the best judgment. Man United will lose it'll be a high scoring game. It'll be 5-2, something like this. Man United will get 2 goals late on because Bayern Munich have already scored, would already be dominating the game, and they'll become a little bit blasé and concede because they'll be so aggressive, and we will have space. I won't be surprised if Højlund gets a goal, but that's another story. Rasmus Højlund. Anyway, peace.